Go. भक्ति जननी जतने पालन कोरी भक्ति जननी जतने बसते बसते बोली परम आदरे बोली कृष्ण बसते बसते स्थाने परलो भ्रमण रंगे हमारे सब स्थाने परलो भ्रमण रंगे सबस्तान रे वो आमी प्रणयी भगत संगे से सबस्तान रे वो आमी प्रणयी सुनीते मान अवसर सदया राजे सुनीते मान अवसर सदया Prasad seva Prasad seva korite hoya sakala prapanyaya Prasad seva korite hoya Prasad seva koribe hoya sakala prapancha jaya Bhajana deke grihete goloka maya Jana sidhu dikiya Jarana sindhu dekiya ganga sukana sima paya Jarana sindhu dekiya ganga तुलसी देखी जोड़ाया प्राण माधव तो शनि जाने तुलसी देखी जोड़ाया प्राण माधव तो शनि जनि जानी गौर प्रिय शाग सेवने सुकना सीमा मानी गौर प्रिय शाग सेवने जीवन सार्थक जने अनुकूल पाय जहाँ प्रति दिवस परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ये प्रति दिवस परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ये सेवा परम सिद्धि प्रेम अधिकार मूल माधव प्रीति भक्ति जननी यतने पालन कोरी कृष्ण बसते बसते बोले परमादरे बोले कृष्ण बसते बसते बोले परमादरे बोले सबस्ताने करलो ब्राह्मण रंगे से सबस्तान है वो भगत संगे से सबस्तान है रे बोआमी भगत संगे मृदंगवाद्य सुनिते माना अवसर सदयाचे गौरविहित कीर्तन सुनि आनंद हृदय नाचे गौरविहित कीर्तन सुनि आनंद हृदय युगल मूर्ति देखिया मोर परम आनंद होया प्रसाद सेवा करिते होया सकल प्रपंच प्रसाद सेवा करिते होया भजन देखी कहते गोलो गवाया चरण सिंधु देखिया गंगा चरण सिंधु देखिया गंगा सुतना सुनाया तुलसी के जुड़ाया प्राण शाक सेवने
ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यवेदं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमः। ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वती निति नामिने श्रीवार्षभानवी देवी दायिताय कृपाब्दये कृष्णसम्बन्ध विज्ञानदायिने प्रभवे नमः। माधुर्योज्ज्वल प्रेमाद्य श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौरकरुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुग विरुद्धाप सिद्धांत द्वंतहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्ब रसाम्बोधे पदाम्बुजायते नमः। नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंद नामिने गौरशक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवरायते गौरविर्भावभूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्ट सज्जनप्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। जयतां सुरतो पंगौर्मम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्व पदाम्बोजो राधा मदन मोहनो दिव्यात् वृंदारण्यकल्पद्रुमाद श्रीमद्रत्नांगद सिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद् राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवौ प्रेष्ठालिभिः सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि। श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवट तटस्थित कर्षण वेणुस्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथा श्रीस्तु नः तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे. Chair you want to use? You can use a chair if you want. Chair is there, yeah. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone to this beautiful villa of Kaushal family. सर्वाधुरो पैलेस बोल रहे, मैं विला बोल रहा हूँ, जो भी है. So actually we have many devotees today because Vyasacharya Prabhu's group of devotees are also there. So it's a very big, I mean, we are supposed to actually have 80 devotees by the end of the class because people will keep coming. I don't know whether you call it a Mahasatsang program, whatever. Okay, so welcome all the devotees to today's program and meeting. So the agenda which I had set for the day was some discussions further on Mahabharat based on that, Star Plus serial that I have been watching. So actually, I mean, the main thing in that, what I basically liked is there are many good lessons that they bring out, and I like yesterday I was looking at, I mean, this is the last serial, second last. So there what happens, Draupadi is talking to Krishna after the war, so Draupadi is saying that, her 5 sons are killed and, everything has taken place. So Krishna is asking Draupadi, so what do you think? Was this war really needed, to establish dharma and everything? The losses that you have made, what do you think about it? So she just starts crying. She says that, the amount of people who have died and, everything that has happened, it's too much to take actually. That to establish dharma, we had to make such a sacrifice. So then, okay, ना जिसने गार्लैंड बनाया उनको मालूम रहता है. So so Draupadi is telling that, I really did not anticipate that this would be the amount of sacrifice that we would have to make to establish dharma. So Krishna says that I had told you about this before, because what they show here, which is also true, is that Krishna speaks to the Pandavas before the war itself and tells them that almost everyone is going to be destroyed. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, with the exception of you 5 Pandavas, everybody is going to be destroyed on both sides. So Krishna says, I had told you about this before only, that everyone is going to be killed. You all knew about it, Krishna says. I had told this. So Draupadi says some nice thing in there, at least in the serial they show. It is obviously not there in the book, but this is a lesson they bring out, but it has a lot of value. She says that the nature of misery is that we cannot imagine too much. Matlab uska, you remember the exact Hindi statement? Tell it. Yeah. So he basically says that, she says that, we imagine misery less. Kalpana kam hota hai misery ka. It's actually a fact. Like for example, if we have to, actually imagine misery, we cannot imagine that too much. But the experiences, much more than the imagination. And in happiness, it is vice versa. The imagination is a lot. We all have experience of this. Like you buy a new house, you get a new job, you're newly married. Just before that, the imagination is a lot. But the experience later is not all that great also. It's like, okay, fine. But misery is the opposite. You cannot imagine. So basically the point is that the whole thing is tilted. The balance is tilted in favor of misery. So, she says like this actually. It's very interesting. A very nice thought, comes out of that particular discussion. So anyway. So today basically I have just set the agenda to just one part of the Mahabharata because there are so many things that we could see and discuss and everything. But I'm just trying to focus on that part which we all know from the Mahabharata, which is that, Bhishma, Drona and Karna, these three people. It is basically on their, Duryodhan basically fights the war, relying on their strength, thinking that, these three people are there. And interestingly, all these three people know in some way or the other, to a lesser or a greater degree, that Duryodhan is wrong. They know it. Bhishma, of course, knows it very much. He's a Mahajana. Drona knows it as well. He is also a very, very knowledgeable person. Even Karna knows it, that this fellow is adharma. Krishna talks to him, everything happens. They know it. So the point is, all these three people know this very well, but still they fight. So of course, we can see this from so many perspectives. Like one perspective we have is, the pure devotional perspective. That perspective is that Krishna wanted, Bhishma is in Virya Ras with Krishna and he likes to be on the opposite party and, they like to exchange that rasa where Krishna is shooting arrows and Bhishma is enjoying it. So that's one spiritual way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is Krishna wanted to show that, no matter who you are, if you are on the side of adharma, you will be finished. That's also certainly a way of looking at it. Yet another way of looking at it, which is also there in the Mahabharata, is basically that these three people, especially because during the Swayamvar of Draupadi, during the disrobing of Draupadi, all these people were mum, sitting quiet, looking at the atyachar going on. That's why everybody was punished. So that is also there in the scripture. That because, they silently watched, a woman being molested like this, they had to pay a price. So basically, I'm just going to play just three or four small, parts, clips of 5 minutes each. And then obviously we will discuss on them. So the first, I'll give a background to what I'm playing because, there is something before and after. So obviously, everyone has not seen this. How many of you have seen, by the way, the Star Plus Mahabharata? Okay, so Mataji has seen it a little more, it appears. Okay, fantastic. So anyway, so the first part that I'm playing, the background is like this. One second, either mobile is ringing or it's mine. Oh. Okay. Yeah. So the background of the first part is like this. Arjuna and Duryodhan both come to Dwaraka to seek help of Krishna for the war. Correct? We all know this. And at that time, Balram is also there and Balram decides basically he will not participate in the war. Because he feels that both the parties have done mistake. That's Balram's general perspective. That even if you say Duryodhan is wrong, even the Yudhishthira is wrong. Why Yudhishthira is wrong? Because he gambled. He put his wife and he did all this. Yeah, you'll have to maybe come somewhere. Yeah. So, you want to sit there, you can see this better. From here, here, just behind Shamlila Prabhu. This place there. So, Balram's perspective is that, Yudhishthira is also wrong. So, I'll not participate in either thing. So, in this Mahabharata, what they show is, so Balram has already decided that I'm not going to fight on any side. And he tells Krishna also, even you should not fight. You should not be on any side. Because both sides have done mistake, like that he says. Then what they basically show here, they have added some masalas. So, what they basically show is in Dwaraka, they show that common people, on the street are playing games where they are, kind of putting their wife as a bet. And they're playing a game. So basically, Balram is alarmed, seeing that, hey, common people, how they're doing like this. Then he comes to the understanding, no, this is because of the example set by great people. So basically what the kings do in the courtroom, that's what common people will imitate. Okay, so that's where the story is now, and we are playing the first part, and we will have some discussion on that very soon. Okay. Hare Krishna. So now all our technology should work, hopefully. It took 45 minutes for us to, half an hour actually, to set up this whole thing. So my first part is in May, 1st May. Yeah. Yeah, so I think we will have to... Yeah. Sorry. This is Okay, this is Balram, and the other one who will come is Krishna. That's all. दो ही character है. So he's asking, तुम्हें ज्ञान है द्वारका में क्या हो रहा है? क्या हो रहा है? That people are betting their wives and playing games. So basically that's what he said.
हाँ दाऊ, कुछ समय से ऐसा हो रहा है। मैंने रोकने का प्रयत्न किया, किंतु द्वारकावासी बार बार अधर्म की ओर बह जाते। नदी जब झरना बनती तो उसकी गति और बढ़ जाती। समाज भी जब अधर्म की ओर चलता तो शीघ्र ही अधर्म में डूब जाता है। इस सब के लिए युधिष्ठिर दोषी है। उसने उस युद्ध सभा में अपनी पत्नी को दांव पर लगाया और अब समग्र आर्यावर्त में लोग उसी घृणित आचरण का अनुसरण कर रहे हैं। नहीं बड़े भैया, नहीं, दोष ना भ्राता युधिष्ठिर का और ना ही भ्राता दुर्योधन का। दोष तो है उस धर्म का जो छल से बंध जाता, छल के सामने अपने घुटने टेक देता। वास्तव में वो परंपराओं का अंध अनुकरण है। धर्म तो है ही। अपना तात्पर्य स्पष्ट करता है। मनुष्य जब अपने प्रण और प्रतिज्ञा पर अड़िग रहे तो वो उत्तम है ज्येष्ठ, किंतु क्या प्रत्येक परिस्थिति में अड़िग रहना उचित है? उस द्यूत सभा में भी यही हुआ। महामहिम भीष्म, गुरु द्रोण, महाज्ञानी विदुर और ज्येष्ठ भ्राता श्री युधिष्ठिर सब अपने अपने प्रण से बंधे रहे, परंपराओं का अंध अनुकरण करते हैं। अपने प्रण, अपनी प्रतिज्ञा का पालन करना ही उन्होंने धर्म माना। यदि किसी एक ने भी अपना प्रण, अपनी प्रतिज्ञा तोड़ी होती, द्रौपदी जी के साथ इतना बड़ा अन्याय कभी नहीं होता। तुम्हारे कहने का अर्थ क्या है? क्या प्रतिज्ञा पालन उचित नहीं? धर्म एक वृक्ष है ज्येष्ठ, प्रण और प्रतिज्ञा उसकी शाखाएं और वृक्ष की जड़ है करुणा। शाखाओं का महत्व अवश्य, किंतु जड़ जितना नहीं। यदि किसी की पीड़ा को रोकने के लिए प्रण तोड़ना भी पड़े तो वो उचित है। किंतु इस समय खंड में करुणा का नाश हो गया है समस्त आर्यवर्त में, समस्त जगत में। अपनी पीड़ा का मूल्य अपनों की पीड़ा से अधिक और अपनों की पीड़ा का मूल्य समाज की पीड़ा से अधिक। करुणा सूख गई है इस समाज में से। जब करुणा नहीं होती समाज में तो लोग एक दूसरे से बंधते नहीं हैं ज्येष्ठ, केवल अपने सुख के लिए जीते हैं। जो स्थिति आज द्वारका की है वही स्थिति समग्र आर्यवर्त की है। जड़ से छूटे वृक्ष की शाखाएं सूख कर लकड़ा बन जाती हैं। ठीक वैसे ही आज के समय में धर्म निर्जीव बन गया है। धर्म में प्राण फूंकने का समय आ गया है बड़े भैया। समाज को एक बार फिर धर्म का ज्ञान देना होगा।
द्वारिका में व्याप्त इस अधर्म को तो हमारा प्रशासन संभाल लेगा काम, परंतु मेरे समक्ष एक और बड़ी चिंता है। वो है समग्र आर्यावर्त में व्याप्त इस अधर्म के कारण कौरवों और पांडवों के बीच संभावित युद्ध।
युद्ध तो अवश्य होगा दाऊ। समाज में जब करुणा का नाश हो जाए तो समाज स्वयं अपने लिए युद्ध निर्मित कर लेता है। कौरव तथा पांडव तो केवल निमित्त है। नदी का तट होता है, किंतु बाढ़ का कोई तट नहीं होता। इस युद्ध में हम भी तटस्थ नहीं रह सकते साहब। हमें किसी के पक्ष से युद्ध तो करना ही होगा। तुम सत्य कह रहे हो बात, परंतु उतना ही बड़ा सत्य यह है कि जिस पक्ष में तुम चले जाओ वह पक्ष स्वयं एक धर्म का पक्ष हो जाएगा। अब सिद्ध करो कि मैं असत्य कह रहा हूं।
Okay, that's the next scene. That's Abhimanyu shooting. Anyway, would anybody like to see? We will do it the same way we did it last time when we, saw this. So here we have several mics here. Actually, we have 3-4 mics, and it's a fantastic system of technology working here. Anybody would like to quickly summarize what was the main thing Krishna is saying? What was the responsibility? Who is responsible for adharma? What is Krishna saying? Where is the mic here? Yeah, I think Shaunagrishi Prabhu is with the hand right up, so he gets the mic. Yeah. Oh no, you don't get the mic because this one. You cannot. Yeah, go ahead. What is the dharma people were following blindly?
They were sticking to their vow.
Yeah.
Krishna was sticking to his vow, and all others were sticking to their vow blindly. And even if one would have broken his vow,
Draupadi would have been saved. Fantastic. This is one thing. Mike moves on behind. Anyone else? Radha Raskamati? Yeah.
He said that dharma is basically the tree and the branches are the different vows in Yoga. So the root is compassion. Compassion is very important. If one is not compassionate, then one is not actually building the relationships. So he's talking about compassion, that at least one should have had compassion for Draupadi, then the scene would not have taken place.
Very good. These are actually two main points that are being conveyed here. One thing is that, broadly speaking, a person should be flexible in life. Rigidity is not good. That's what is being said. Being too rigid on one's principles also is not very good. Because according to time, place, circumstance, one should be ready to change. Even with vows, one cannot be so rigid. Like we see the best example of Prabhupada. We see that Prabhupada, there were occasions where some of his disciples, he wanted them to go to East European countries, and where only meat is available, he told them, you eat meat and you preach. He was extremely flexible even with such a foundational vow, which is our initiation vow, no meat eating. That's okay. So, even in that, Prabhupada was very flexible, considering that situation. Because the situation demanded that, preaching is more important. And preaching is what? Compassion. That means for compassion, one has to be ready to be flexible with one's vows. That's the basic thing. So flexibility is very important over here. Yes, quickly. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, that compassion is based on Guru Sadhu Shastra. Yeah. There's no question of that. So the compassion has to be right placed. Like for example, here the compassion to Draupadi was right placed. Like Prabhupada writes in one place that even a prostitute has a dignity. Even if a lady is a prostitute, even she has a dignity. Even she cannot be treated like this. What is big of Draupadi? Even if you lost her or won her or whatever, there is still a way to deal even with a servant, even assuming that Draupadi has become a slave. Even in that, there is a dignity which she had a right to, a fundamental human right. And she happens to be the daughter-in-law of the family, and she's just her Rajasuya Yajna is done. Look at the position. So considering all that, so this is the point basically. So one has to be flexible. So Bhaksan Saraswati also gives one very nice example, story to illustrate rigidity. He gives the story of this Brahmin who was determined to drink water from his own well. So there was a well in the village of this Brahmin, and since generations people were drinking water from that well in his family. But currently what had happened was that well's water had become little spoilt, over a period of time. But he ensured that, his family members drink that water only, and many of his family members died as well drinking that water. But he was just not flexible. That means he had this concept that I should drink only from this particular. So Bhakti uses the story to say that sometimes people are extremely, adamant or obsessive over their so-called principles in life, which they are never ready to really, adjust according to situation. So situation has changed, then you have to change your principle, which they are unable to do. So he uses example for many contexts. Of course, one thing he also says from that particular story is that, someone says that, I will learn only from a Brahmana. Even assuming that Brahmana has lost all his values, but still I'll stick to that only. So this does not work. So like the Bhakti gives that particular story. So another interesting thing about, flexibility and adaptability, I recall from Govind Prabhu's one particular class, where he was telling this, that how in India lost its, we actually lost our country, religion and everything to foreign invaders, primarily because of, certain kind of rigidity. So he gives example that how in 14th, 15th century, when the Mughals would come in, some of them, when they were losing with the Rajputs in a war, they would keep suppose the Mughal was losing in a fight with the Rajput, he would keep 5,000 cows in front. They would immediately send cows. So when they would do that, the Rajputs would lower down their weapons, because you cannot raise weapons against cow. Because they would keep cow in front of their army. And using that cow as a shield, these Mughals will hit these people and kill them, the Rajputs. So the Rajputs, he said that at some point of time, they favored giving up their life, rather than shoot the Mughals, which would imply killing some cows. So the point he says over here is, it is very good to have your principle, that the cow has to be protected. It's an enormous principle for us. But if you look at a longer principle of compassion and, what the impact is going to be, losing their own lives basically meant that these cows are anyway going to die. Because these cows are not going to be maintained by these people. That means a long-term vision of compassion, is very important rather than just short. So he uses this example to say modern history, how, sometimes being very rigid on our principles, also causes issues. This we can see in many ways. Another quick thing I would just like to say is like even in homes we see sometimes, in families, some family member has some principle, and even though times have changed, situation has changed, but they, somehow want to stick to that principle only. But that principle is just not working now in the given situation. But they are not having the maturity to understand that, okay, though I had that principle or that pran or whatever, considering the current situation, I have to change that. I can't, be, hell-bent on that. So there are some immediate thoughts that come to my mind. Another quick question I want to ask, just to see something. Which scripture do you recall was actually written down, which actually began from compassion? Of course, every scripture comes from compassion only, but there is one scripture very prominently that comes due to compassion. Ramayana, yes, everyone knows this, right? So Ramayana, we know Valmiki, how, when he sees that Krauncha Pakshi, being killed by the Nishada, he feels compassion to that bird. Because it seems nature is such that in that Krauncha species, that bird has only one mate. That means that bird does not, it's better than human being, so to speak. They will not mate with another Pakshi. So since that female lost that male, it basically meant that that female would never have another mate in its life. He felt extreme compassion and he cursed. And out of that compassion came that shloka, which basically later Brahmaji said that it was an indication of your poetic abilities and the fact that you should now write Ramayana. So that's another quick thing. As far as the Mahabharata itself is concerned, Vyasadeva talks about the tree of dharma. So he gives two examples, which I will just like to quote. One thing he says there are two trees in the Mahabharata. He says one tree is the tree of Duryodhan. That tree's root is Dhritarashtra. The trunk is Karna. And the branches are Dushasana and Shakuni. That is the tree of irreligion. The second tree he writes is the tree of religion. That tree is named as Yudhishthir. The trunk of that tree is Arjuna. Bhima is the branch. Nakul and Sahadeva are the fruits and flowers. And the root is Krishna, Brahmanas and Vedic scriptures. He says these are the two trees. Dhritarashtra. The root was Dhritarashtra. Here, so he talks about these two trees. Of course, here he talks about another concept. He talks about compassion as the root of the tree. which again is perfectly right in our this thing. Anybody would like to just comment anything here? Anyone would like to? Yeah, go ahead. You have a mic, 1 second. Mic can go there. Yeah. Which one? On it. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. Compassion includes bodily suffering also. It's not that it does not. Like you will see several cases of Prabhupada also, where, like for example, in Calcutta or Mayapur or somewhere, he sees these some very, low class, poor children who are coming and scavenging through food to eat something. Prabhupada has cried tears for them as well. See, so that's why we need to understand this point that compassion includes bodily suffering compassion. It's not that a Vaishnava is one, if he sees somebody dying on the street, he'll say that I'm looking only at his soul. You're feeling compassion for that. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. 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 It's not exactly like that. It's not that clothes giving is discouraged. See, money giving is just discouraged because we are just not very confident about what they're going to do with the money. But as such, in fact, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada, and even Radhanath Swami, they've always said this point that if you don't have anything, you have to give money. So that is there. So it's not that money. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, on one occasion, it is said when he was going on a yatra to one holy place, it is said, it comes in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. He writes that there are many beggars who are asking charity from the Grahasthas. And those Grahasthas at that time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati disciples, they did not have any money, prasad. But they didn't give money also. So he remarked that this is going to make your heart very hard because you're not giving anything to these beggars. So he suggested to them that you give money. So basically, if you see all acharyas, no one has said that you should not give money, but it's just that if you have other things to give in kind, it's better. And it makes practical sense also. Yeah. Right? Okay. Any other point here? The compassion principle. Anybody would like to say or add anything? Yeah, go ahead. Who? Yeah. I think that cordless has stopped working. Oh, really? Yeah, go ahead. Wherever the mic is. Oh, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's also, that's a perfect comment. When compassion goes away, yeah, a person becomes irreligious. That's correct. Actually, even within ISKCON, in a very broader context, there is a lot of debate on this compassion thing. How to implement compassion. What we are talking, philanthropy and all that. It is, like for example, I will tell you, the Food for Life program which is there, which is run in Chowpatty in many places in ISKCON, where you're feeding all these, ISKCON's Food for Life has a very good reputation, especially in giving food to all these municipal school children, during the break and all that. So many midday meal, thousands of children are getting food actually daily. Busy Ujjain and so many temples have this particular thing. So even within ISKCON, there are two views. There is one view that this is, very, very, bodily service philanthropy. Another view is that no, if a devotee does this with that connection to Krishna, it is in connection to Krishna. So there are two views in this as well, even among, great sannyasis and scholars and whatever. So I'm just making that comment as well over here. Yeah, Bhaktivedanta Hospital, of course, is one unique project which is there only in one place, but I'm talking about Food for Life which is there in many places. But even that does not have that acceptability, means among everyone necessarily. There are two views of thought. So that's how life is. Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah. I mean, on a very practical level in ISKCON society, no one is an acharya as on today. I mean, if you use that very specific terminology, there was only one acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and then after that, there's no acharyas. So, I think it is the responsibility of the leaders, the Brahmana community, because the Brahmana is supposed to be independently thoughtful, a person who can really think and apply things to situations. So such people should be there. But that is not only at a society level. I am talking even within a family level also it is needed. At every unit of existence, community existence, there have to be intelligent people who are leading and who are thinking, how to implement things. Correct? Yeah, okay. So I think this is discussed enough. So we'll go to the next thing because the next 3-4 are even more detailed. So, yeah, okay, quick. Go ahead. Okay. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, perfect. Actually, this is an unavoidable principle. Coming back to your point, compassion has to include that compassion as well. It is very difficult to see that, When we talk about this bodily compassion and compassion for the dead body, that we are literally talking about where, see, it also depends on who does it. See, in the subtle Vedic culture, it is not just the act, but it is also the question of who is doing it with what motive, what consciousness, things like that. Even that becomes important. So there are some people who do philanthropy activity on a again purely so-called material level, and they really, and sometimes they even criticize spiritual people. So that's really a problem, challenge. Okay, fine. So I think we'll go ahead now to next point. Yeah. So it's okay, fine. Okay, fine. So now I'm playing the next part. So it's a continuation of the previous part actually. So now basically what happens is, after Krishna points out to Balram that, Bhishma, Drona and all these people, also did this mistake, he comes as a Shanti Doot. This is a very small section I'm going to play, just 1 minute. So he comes as a Shanti Doot. And when he is in the Shanti Doot, so there are a lot of arguments going on. So basically how they present it over here is that, everybody assumes in Hastinapur that Bhishma, Drona are most religious and righteous, and they have never done any adharma. That is a general background in this story, the way they have shown. That Bhishma and Drona stand for dharma, and they never do any adharma or anything. So basically when Krishna goes as a Shanti Doot, so many things they talk. Initially Duryodhana and Shakuni say that, we found the Pandavas in Agyatwas last day. That controversy was there still. So they are saying that, they should go back to the forest and all that. Krishna says that Jyut Sabha itself was adharma. What you did, the whole thing was nonsense. So Duryodhana and others are saying, how was it adharma? We had laid out the bet. Everything was laid out. Yudhishthir voluntarily only placed everything on bet. Why is Jyut Sabha adharma? So Krishna says that in a food thali, if one thing becomes poisonous, everything is poisonous only. If even if one item is poisonous in your plate, whatever you are eating, food, everything is considered poison. You cannot say that, only this part of the food is poison. Similarly, he says the very fact that you did this to a woman, in this, made that whole sabha poisonous and irreligious. So now you don't talk anything about it, he says. So basically, Krishna just smashes the whole thing as irreligious. Then what happens is, these people are asking, Duryodhana and Shakuni are asking, so are you saying that even Bhishma and Drona were religious? So they are trying to catch Krishna, so to speak, corner him, checkmate him, because the general attitude is that, they are perfect. Let's see what Krishna answers. This is Shakuni, no introduction needed. The Bhishma, the Drona.
अवश्य किया। जब समग्र भवन गिर रहा हो तो द्वारपाल केवल द्वार की रक्षा नहीं कर सकता गांधार राज। जब समाज के विरुद्ध कोई अपराध कर रहा, जब मानवता के विरुद्ध कोई अपराध कर रहा, तो केवल अपने व्यक्तिगत धर्म को संभालना, अनर्थकारी फुटा धर्म का ये ऐसा विचित्र रूप है जिसे मैं मान्य नहीं कर सकता।
Okay, this is Vidura. So, it was a very small section. I mean, it was just continuation of the previous section. You can sit down now. I have stopped playing. So, it's a very small section that I played. It's just a continuation of the previous theme. The basic thing is that this is the first place where, Bhishma and Drona, Krishna tells them on face that what you did was adharma. It was wrong. And he gives a very nice example here. He says that if your whole house is falling down, what does he say? Yeah, if the doorkeeper is just trying to protect the door, it's meaningless. So he's saying that, you are having your own bread, but you have to see what is happening inside. Everything is collapsing. So he gives a very nice example and says that what they did was wrong. Very simple thing. So I'll just go 2 or 3 things in this connection. Prabhupada's comment. Prabhupada in one place in the Bhagavatam he writes, non-violence for an administrator means going to hell. Prabhupada's statement. Non-violence for an administrator means going to hell. So basically, Prabhupada says that, any administrator who is there, he should have his eyes and everything open, and if he sees things are going wrong, he should be ready to take action. So in that context, we always know this, that Prabhupada was more a supporter of Subhash Chandra Bose's methodology for freedom struggle than our Gandhiji, because he felt that, at some point of time, violence is important, so, that's just a very small comment. So basically, we see this point that, Bhishma, it is said that Bhishma, when he is on his deathbed, this is actually given by an Acharya in his commentary. So he says that when Bhishma is on his deathbed, and when the Pandavas go to ask questions, like after the war is over, Yudhishthira is going to ask questions about dharma. That time, Bhishma starts answering. So at that time, it is said that Draupadi smiles. She starts laughing. And she says that, I asked you only one question in that hall. You did not answer that. And now, Yudhishthira is asking so many questions and you are ready to answer everything. She is asking in a taunt. Basic point being that when she had asked that question to Bhishma, it comes in the Mahabharata. You have Krishna Dharma Prabhu's Mahabharata? I just want that for some references. So, if you don't mind, you can. If it is not very difficult, I'm sorry to bother you. Yeah, so, it comes in the Mahabharata that Draupadi is asking just one question. Whether the husband has a right to, put this wife like this. And it is at that time it is said that Bhishma does not answer. That means he does not give a concrete answer. He kind of, he just says something and he just says, ask Yudhishthira only, or, he does something like that basically. He actually does ask Yudhishthira only. He only did this. So what is being said as per the Mahabharata is that since Bhishma did not say anything very solid at that time, that made the Pandavas' case very weak. And that actually led to Dushasana doing so many other things. So the basic point is this Prabhupada's comment that Non-violence for an administrator means going to hell. So, yeah, so in this context, when Draupadi asks Bhishma that, I asked you one question you didn't answer, Yudhishthira asking so many questions you're answering. So, Bhishma says, in jest, he says that time I was spoiled by eating this food of Duryodhan, but your husband's arrows have purified my blood right now. So, I am able to speak nicely. He tells like this, Bhishma. So, very interesting point, which basically, shows this particular aspect that, at that situation he was somehow quiet, and that led to this thing. Okay, fine. So, the very small section. So, any question or comment over here? This is fine. Okay. So, now what we will do is, we will actually go into the main theme. The way they show, at least in this particular episode is, in this telecast is, that when Bhishma, Drona and Karna, when they are dying, just before they die, Krishna freezes everything. That means everything around freezes. I mean, people just stop. Yeah, he stops time, basically. And Krishna gives awareness to Bhishma, Drona and Karna why they were wrong. So they have added this part, obviously. I mean, everything in the story is same, but he tells them why they were wrong. So that discussion is very interesting. So we'll see that one by one, and we'll have a discussion. Yeah, ask us. Yeah. Hmm. No, he tells na, Yudhishthira also faulty only. Oh, yeah. Yudhishthira also, why not? But the basic understanding is that even though he was at fault, now you may say both are at fault, then what? So Govind Prabhu says one nice point. He says that in this material world, you can never have 100% right. Yudhishthira's greatness was, he was 99% great. 1% of that fault he exhibited only during the gambling match. Duryodhana, on the other hand, was 99.99% wrong only all the time. So you cannot say that just because wrong is there on both sides, both are wrong. You have to see material world. You have to see relativity, and you have to see the scale. So that is again understood, right? Yeah. Yeah. That only sticking. No. Sticking to the principles only in this particular context. In other context, sticking to the principle did not cause a problem. Only one place where Yudhishthira sticking to the principle caused problem was Ashwatthama Narova Kunjarova. He was sticking to the principle, but then because of Krishna's personal presence, he was flexible enough to at least say with a modified version of it, Narova Kunjarova, whatever, right? Yeah, on it.
आपको पुनः मधुर प्रतीत होने लगेगा.
Okay, wait. Don't. So leave it. See, this is Drona. Okay, Bhishma I may play later. Let's see. This is going to take a lot of time. Drona and Karna is going to take a really lot of time. So, this is Drona's death. So, what has happened at this point is, Yudhishthira has said that line, Narova Kunjarova, and Drona has dropped his weapons and he's sitting down, which is the story. So of course, we know the real story. What happens is he just sits down and Dhritarashtra comes and chops him off. But here they have added this thing, that in the middle, Krishna comes and talks. So let's see what he talks. And
चिंतन अवश्य की. यदि मैं आपसे कहूं, जो अश्वत्थामा मरा है वो वास्तव में आपका पुत्र नहीं, एक हाथी है, तो क्या आपका जीवन आपको पुनः मधुर प्रतीत होने लगेगा? क्या आपका हृदय फिर से करुणा से भर जाएगा? यदि आज आपके पुत्र की मृत्यु नहीं हुई तो कल होगी. विश्व में कौन अमर रहता है गुरुद्रोण? किंतु वास्तविक प्रश्न तो ये है कि आपके जीवन के सुख दुख, आशा निराशा, ज्ञान अज्ञान, क्या सब कुछ केवल आपके पुत्र से बने? क्या आपके जीवन का दूसरा कोई मूल्य नहीं? क्या आपकी सारी शक्ति, सारा ज्ञान केवल आपके पुत्र के लिए? खुश मेरे कारण वो संसार में आया, उसने मुझे सुख, सम्मान और स्नेह दिया। मेरे लिए जीवन में इससे अधिक महत्व था कोई नहीं। क्या बतौर पिता अपने पुत्र से अधिक क्यों नहीं करता? तो विचार कीजिए गुरुद्रोण, जिस पुत्र के प्रति आपको इतना अधिक प्रेम, जिससे वास्तव में आपने क्या दिया? तो पता नहीं, सुख दिए, राज्य दिया, संस्कार दी, विद्या दी, धर्म का ज्ञान दिया गुरुदेव। क्या आप उसे कुछ भी ऐसा दे पाए जिससे उसे आपकी रक्षा की आवश्यकता ही ना? मानता सब अर्जुन तथा अंगराज कर्ण की भांति महान योद्धा नहीं बन पाते, किंतु आप अपने पुत्र को उचित निर्णय लेने का शिक्षण तो दे ही सकते थे। यदि आपने ऐसा किया होता तो आज आपका पुत्र धर्म का शत्रु नहीं होता और आपको भी अधर्म के पक्ष में रहकर युद्ध नहीं करना पड़ता।
Okay, there's a second part to it also we'll play. First we just discuss this briefly. So what's the main thing that he's doing over here? He's first of all asking, he's asking basically, why is your entire life oriented so much behind your son? That's what he's asking. Because actually that is exactly what Drona does. His whole life is oriented behind his son only. If you see, why does he come to teach Pandavas and Kauravas? Because of his son. Because his son had that aate ka, gole ka, whatever, that, doodh. Instead of milk, some atta water they had given. So he mistook that to milk. So basically, that was the original motivation. Then of course he defeated Drupad and he got a lot of property for his son. And then his son became friends with Duryodhan. And because his son was on Duryodhan's side, he was also on Duryodhan's side. And ultimately when he came to know that information that Ashwatthama is dead, he left his weapons down saying that now I am not interested to fight. So that means his whole life was revolving only around that particular attachment. So that is what Krishna is bringing out in front of him. So at this point I just want to discuss some examples from scripture. Which examples comes to your mind where you see the opposite? Where a person takes very strong action against his son. Despite that person being his son only, he takes a very strong action because of wrongdoings. There are several actually, but quickly some ones. Yeah, very good. Krishna killing Bhaumasur. So Krishna's own son. Krishna kills him. Even in the Mahabharata we see Arjuna as a contrary example, where Arjuna's son Abhimanyu was killed, but that did not put down Arjuna's motivation to do his duty, his war. He was continuing to do, unlike Drona, who left everything. But there are several examples like this. So one is Krishna. Any other example comes to your mind? Prahlad Maharaj example? What is it? Virochan, na? Yeah, I don't remember the details, but I'm specifically talking about father son over here. Any other question comes where he punishes him actually. Advaita Acharya's 3 sons. This is a very good example actually. Advaita Acharya, it is said, had 6 sons. Out of his 6 sons, 3 sons were great souls, devotees, and 3 sons were karmakandis or jnanis, impersonalists. And Advaita Acharya, in his own lifetime, he disowns those 3 sons actually, who are following the impersonal path. That is correct. Any other example where someone disowns his own son due to adharma? Okay, go ahead. Asamanjas. You can tell that briefly. What did Asamanjas do? Yeah. Yeah, and incidentally it so happens that Asamanjas was actually a great soul. He wanted to escape from the kingdom and take sannyas. He wanted to join Gaurang Sabha basically. He was looking for a reason to do it. So he was doing this. So finally when King Sagar throws him out, he revives all these children back to life and he goes away, saying that you anyway threw him out. But the fact of the matter is that Sagar took some action. He did not just keep his mouth shut. Like Dhritarashtra was here with Duryodhan. Or Drona was with Ashwathama. You know? That he did not do. Any other quick example? Anga in Vena is there, of course. Of course, Anga didn't take any action against Vena, but at least he kind of, he broke his own attachment to him. He did not continue that attachment. That's something very good. Okay, fine. Any other example? There are several more. I'll just quote a couple of them. One is Ghatotkacha. When Ghatotkacha dies, Krishna claps and laughs. And it is for two reasons. One is that the Shakti weapon was used, and the other is that Ghatotkacha was a Rakshas who was against the Brahmanas and cows. So Krishna felt happiness that a demon is killed. So what Arjuna and Bhima realize is Krishna is not interested just in these bodily relationships of father-son, but rather is actually looking at who is dharmic and he wants to protect only them. And even if our family, if a child is adharmi, Krishna is not going to support that person. So Ghatotkacha one thing. Another example is Bharat Maharaj, on whom India is named as Bharat, that is Dushyanta Putra Bharata. This Bharata, it is said, he had several sons and all his sons were irreligious. This comes in the Mahabharata. And Bharata banishes all of them. And he does not have his own child. He has a child like Rishiputra, like Pandu, like that. So, he does it actually. Because his sons are irreligious, he just throws everyone out, of the kingdom. Similarly, there is this great king Ikshvaku, who is the son of Vivaswan, Vaivasvata Manu's son, Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku's one son was named as Vikukshi. And this Vikukshi, it comes in the Bhagavatam that Ikshvaku Maharaj is doing a great, Shraddha for his forefathers. And those days in Shraddha they would offer flesh, like we hear in that shloka. In Kali Yuga it is not permitted, previous ages it was permitted. So he tells his son Vikukshi to get flesh of rabbit, the Vashishta tells. And when Vikukshi is getting the rabbit flesh, in the middle he feels very hungry from the forest while coming to the Yajnashala and he eats one rabbit. And Vashishta, when he sees the flesh, before he offers it, he immediately understands that a portion of this flesh has been already taken by this fellow. So he tells that this whole thing is contaminated, we'll have to abort the Shraddha ceremony. So at that time, Ikshvaku becomes angry and for that mistake he throws him out of the kingdom. This Vikukshi is banished, at least for some time. Later, of course, he comes back after Ikshvaku's sannyas. But the basic point is the father took action. Basically, the point is here is that, one maintains affection for his family members, but one should never be blindly attached. And blind attachment leads only to misery. So this we see constantly. Like Dhritarashtra's love for Duryodhan, or like here, even here, Drona's love for Ashwathama. Because Ashwathama was considered, quite sinful in that context. Especially the act he does later. When he kills the 5 sleeping children and he also, tries to kill Parikshit in the womb. In fact, Krishna punishes him such a solid way and in the end, Krishna gives such a curse in the Mahabharata. If you see Krishna, he mentions actually how, Krishna tells Ashwathama at the end that you are going to have bodily suffering, mental torture and you will not die also. And you will keep roaming like this here and there. Because he had the benediction of being Shashwat, eternal. He said that this benediction is going to be a curse for you. You will suffer bodily pain throughout this process. Of course, he is benedicted later. Like we know the next Kali Yuga, the Vyas is Ashwathama, by the way. In a future millennium. So of course, I and my wife, we had a debate on this. She was telling me that, I will not read that Vyasa's book. But then the fact of the matter is that people change. Like we have Valmiki, who was previously Ratnakar, who was a big dacoit, but he changed later. So everybody has hope. But at least for a substantial period of time, Ashwatthama is punished, for that activity. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, okay. So Vrindavan, of course, everybody gets mercy. So that is a different thing. But other than that. Another thing I noticed, like how Prabhupada had 5 children. And how basically, it is said that Prabhupada was very affectionate to them. But at the same time, at a point of time when they refused to get married and settle down properly, Prabhupada understood that since I cannot do anything materially good for them, I might as well do my spiritual duty. Because they are not going to allow me to do my duties as a father. He gives up on them. And in fact, some of them later, they become quite a bad shape. Like one of his sons, whose name I think is Prayagraj, he becomes almost like a rack picker in Calcutta. At that level he comes down to, basically. Prabhupada is always compassionate with his sons, even later. Even after he has taken sannyas, when he meets Mathura Mohan Dey, Vrindavan Chandra Dey, his other 2 sons, he always shows them compassion, kindness. But then again, you see very clearly that Prabhupada also tells his own disciples like Tamal Krishna Maharaj and others that be careful from these people. They may try to, do something to the property and other things, after I go back away. So, be careful. So, the point basically is, affection is there, but there is absolutely no attachment. So, one can see very clearly who is who. So, this kind of view is very important in life, so that one can live very nicely, especially in relation with one's own family members. If not, one will be embarrassed, like Dhritarashtra was or Drona was. That's the point. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. That means you should not pamper your this thing. Yeah, certainly. Okay, so there's a small second part to it as well. We'll play that as well and then go to Karna.
मैं मानता सब अर्जुन तथा अंगराज कर्ण की भांति महान योद्धा नहीं बन पाते, किंतु आप अपने पुत्र को उचित निर्णय लेने का शिक्षण तो दे ही सकते हो। यदि आपने ऐसा किया होता तो आज आपका पुत्र धर्म का शत्रु नहीं होता और आपको भी अधर्म के पक्ष में रहकर युद्ध नहीं करना पड़ता। मैं अपने पुत्र अश्वत्थामा को सारे सुख देने की इच्छा रखता था वासुदेव। मेरे पुत्र अश्वत्थामा के प्रति मेरे मन में प्रेम के जल, प्रेम तो उन्नति देता है, उचित अनुचित का ज्ञान देता है गुरुदेव। प्रेम होता तो आप भी अधर्म के नहीं बनते और आपका पुत्र भी अधर्म से छूट जाता। वास्तव में ये प्रेम नहीं, आपके मन का मोह। प्रेम और मोह के बीच क्या भेद होता है, क्या आपने कभी विचार किया? प्रेम से ही तो मोह का जन्म होता है। वास्तव में जहां प्रेम होता है वहां मोह होता ही नहीं। प्रेम का जन्म करुणा से होता है और मोह का जन्म अहंकार से। प्रेम कहता है कि मेरे पुत्र को ईश्वर संसार के सभी सुख देंगे और मोह कहता है कि मैं अपने पुत्र को संसार के सारे सुख दूंगा। प्रेम कहता कि मुझे अपने पुत्र पर गर्व और मोह कहता है कि मेरे पुत्र को मुझ पर गर्व हो। प्रेम मुक्ति देता है गुरुदेव, मोह बांधता है। प्रेम धर्म है गुरुदेव और मोह मोह बंधन। आपने अपने पुत्र को आगे का घोर जीते देख अपनी साधना।
Okay, there are many more things, but this is again a very interesting part where Krishna is basically saying that what you actually had for your son is not love. I mean, we talk about love and lust, basically. Attachment. More, I think, means what? Attachment, right? Yeah. You were just materially attached to him. You didn't have genuine love. If you had genuine love, you wouldn't have allowed him to go like this. You would have done something about it, log back. You know, so again, that's a very nice distinction. So again, as parents and everything, it is a very good understanding, basically, you know, to see. Just like, I think 2 days back, this, on Indie TV, this had come actually, this news, which I think many devotees have been circulating. It said that Steve Jobs was the founder of Apple. He was a, you know, he never allowed his children to use technology. Much. I mean, he allowed them to, you know, use technology only on weekend or little bit. And that whole article, which was published recently, it talks about so many examples of big guys in America, you know, who own companies and CEO. They don't give their children technology only. They give them proper books to read, and you know, they say that, you know, stay away from this. Half an hour on weekends you can touch technology. If you're under 10, and if you're about 10, you can use it for half an hour to do your homework. That's all. No technology. So the whole article talks several examples. I was quite impressed with that, as in to see that how, I mean, sometimes even, you know, a common man has this intelligence to understand what is actually good for my child and what is not good. You know, he's not just carried away, you know, by whatever society is doing and everything is doing and giving so many things to children simply to keep playing with. You know, which sometimes a person thinks it is out of love that I'm giving facility. Especially this happens, you know, sometimes with people who did not have, you know, too many facilities in their childhood or youth to enjoy. Then they feel, तो मुझे तो नहीं मिला, मेरे बच्चों को तो सब कुछ मिलना चाहिए. Why should I deprive them? They feel like this, you know, and they give them free access to many things. So that's really a challenge. So the question there is, you know, do you have real love for your child, or are you simply attached? You know, that is a question that we need to ask, you know, in connection with this particular point. Any thought on this? Anybody would like to say something? Yes, Shamlila bro. Take the mic 1 second. Mic will be good. My mic अच्छा रहेगा. Actually, devotees and outside in this matter, there is not much difference. I mean, we are just living in the outside world only. Just normal people we are. It's not that because you're a devotee of two horns. And most devotees also, you do the same thing with their children. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, illusion. Yeah. Oh, in this case, I would say it is basically, it's basically some kind of laziness in terms of, you know, like you said it very nicely, that, you know, technology sometimes is a little easier from the parent perspective, you know, because the child automatically gets engaged with something, and, you know, he doesn't trouble us too much. You understood? It's like, you know, you give the child a toy, so he plays with it, he doesn't trouble us. You know, so it is out of neglect of one's duty or whatever. It may not be strictly either prem or moha. It may also be just out of, you know, laziness to comply with what a parent is supposed to do. You know, I mean, an easy way out, basically. You know, easy way out. Like, I've spoken to devotees sometimes, like 1 year back I was speaking to one devotee. So, you know, he and his wife, they come to the programs and everything. You know, so whenever they come to the program, they have only one son. So they keep him at home, and, you know, he watches TV. So basically, I try to tell him that, you know, it's better you don't go to the program. You know, if you are going to the program, basically means that your son has to simply sit at home and watch TV. You know, it's better you don't go to the program and you rather you sit at home or you do something else about it. Doesn't make any sense actually to do this. It's actually a kind of violence. So sometimes it may not be dharma or moha, it may be lack of understanding of what one's role is, what one's real duty is in life, and finding easy way out, shortcut, which is obviously very nice. Shortcut is always easy, na? You have easy access to things. I mean, so that's one example. But in so many practical ways, we can, sorry. If I touch it, it just. But in so many other practical ways, parent could just kind of, pamper the child. I just want to see, could some devotees give some examples of some other examples of how parent may tend to, pamper their child, out of illusion or whatever, to give them access to facilities. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yeah. Understood. Yeah? Illusion. Yeah, just like we are having a Krishna's kingdom at our home, so we have many children who come in the neighboring society, in the society. So, my wife was just talking to some mother, of whose son is in 9th standard or something. He was saying that this boy, he comes to a Krishna's kingdom, whatever, he has been coming for some time or something. So this fellow, he was saying that, even at, all their children, even at 9th standard children, they are all on Facebook or something, even at night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Just asking each other, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm planning to sleep. And foolish things basically. But we see that parents keep giving all these things, and they keep doing it. So at least we have to remember that with our children, we have to be pretty strict with these things. This is not when they are small. They don't know what it is. This is especially after teenage. It's between 12 to 17. All these challenges come. So it's a challenge that most of us are yet to face actually. At least in this group. You have to take it closer to your. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Any other quick comment on this? Yes, Mataji, you want to say something? So that's why we were talking about Steve Jobs, who was not proud of it. Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah. We are also using. All this was downloaded from YouTube. Yeah. That's perfect, but the only hitch over here is that a growing mind may not have that maturity to decide. A person at the, yeah. Then that's fine. Then that's perfect. That's perfect. Go ahead. Yeah, perfect. So many ways. Just one more point about, parent-child relationship. This Govind Prabhu spoke in one class long back. He was speaking about Kunti and Karna. He was saying that one reason why Kunti did not reveal that this Karna is my son. One thing, of course, we know is from the perspective that, she did not want to incur a bad name or whatever, because Karna was born before her marriage. But another reason he says is because she knew very well that this fellow, he's not on the side of dharma. Because his birth was in adharma for some reason. The samskara was not correct at birth. Because Kunti was not willing for the child and somehow the child came. So when a mother is not willing and the child comes, like this child only comes out. So that was one thing. And she also knew that this fellow is so much on the side of adharma that if I reveal this truth publicly, then Yudhishthir will simply, bow down to Karna, saying that, I will not now fight only. And Karna will give the whole thing to Duryodhana. So Kunti did not want this, and neither did Krishna want this to happen. So that is one reason why Kunti also kept a safe distance from Karna only, knowing very well that this fellow is on the side of adharma. So we cannot, complicate matters too much. So that again illustrates her, great personality. Where she exactly knew when to reveal something. Okay, fine, perfect. Okay, so now I am going to the last video which I am playing, and this discussion will be slightly longer, so it will take time. That is, I will not have time for Bhishma, so this is basically Karna's death. What Krishna tells Karna. Start. So basically this part is, so again the same thing, Karna is about to die. I mean the story is the same, the wheel has got stuck and he has got down, he's forgotten the mantra. So when he forgets the mantra, we'll see what happens quickly. This is Karna, who else? और नहीं तो दो ही तो कैरेक्टर है. चैरिटर चलिए.
भगवान परशुराम के शब्दों को स्मरण कीजिए.
So what happens is he forgets the mantra, na? So he's reminding him of Parshuram's flashback. Charge. I told you, na, wire. This is almost conked off. This is only making sound. दुर्योधन वही है क्या? वो कौन होता है? हाँ, correct. And now I can recap. Yeah, same. It never clicked us. What they are saying is correct. People are learning many more lessons that I intended to. मेरे पास इधर 4-5 लेसन ही है, तुम लोगों के पास 50 लेसन है. One second, my laptop bag is there, na? My LCD bag is there. Hey, it is there. I have it. I have that wire. मेरा वो LCD bag है, लेके आओ तुरंत. मैं गलती से वो बैग में गया है. Okay, we continue.
जो विद्या नीति के मार्ग पर चलकर प्राप्त की जाती वो संकट के समय में साथ छोड़ देती। ये भगवान परशुराम का श्राप नहीं अंगराज, प्रकृति का नियम। किंतु मैंने अथक श्रम किए थे विद्या प्राप्त करने के लिए वासुदेव, ये मुझे क्यों मेरी विद्या का विस्मरण हो गया? विद्या प्राप्त करने का प्रयत्न आपने क्यों किया था अंगराज? क्या विद्या का महत्व जाना था आपने? क्या विद्या प्राप्त करके समाज को लाभ देने की इच्छा थी आपके हृदय में, या केवल अपने अपमान का प्रतिशोध लेने हेतु आपने विद्या प्राप्त की? वास्तव में विद्या प्राप्त करने हेतु श्रम की तो आवश्यकता ही नहीं होती, केवल एकाग्रता और समर्पण पर्याप्त है। ज्ञान तो आत्मा का सहज गुण, और आप बुद्धिमान, आप ही बताइए, विद्या ग्रहण करते समय मन एकाग्र क्यों नहीं रहता? जब ज्ञान को मनुष्य साधन मानता है, किसी अन्य वस्तु को प्राप्त करने हेतु ज्ञान ग्रहण करने निकलता है, तब ज्ञान ग्रहण करते समय उसका मन स्थिर नहीं हो पाता, ज्ञान उसकी आत्मा का गुण नहीं बन पाता। जैसे रंग वस्त्र का अपना गुण नहीं होता, इसीलिए सूर्य प्रकाश में तप का रंग छूट जाता है। जो व्यक्ति अमूल्य ज्ञान का मोल जानकर ज्ञान प्राप्त करता है, वो उत्तम बन जाता है। किंतु जो व्यक्ति कुछ और प्राप्त करने के आशय से ज्ञान प्राप्त करता है, वो जीवन भर श्रेष्ठ बनने की स्पर्धा में लगा रहता है, किंतु उत्तम नहीं बन पाता। आपने भी ज्ञान प्राप्त किया किसी आशय से, भगवान की शरण में रहकर भी आपका मन शांत नहीं हुआ। आप प्रतियोगिता करते रहे कहीं दूर बैठे अर्जुन के साथ।
मैं लौटूंगा, पर इतना विश्वास दिलाकर जाता हूँ कि मैं भारतवर्ष का सबसे श्रेष्ठ दोनों दर बनकर लौटूंगा और आपके सभी शिष्यों से श्रेष्ठ बनूंगा।
ज्ञान प्राप्ति का आपका आशय ही अनुचित था, तो इस विद्या का विस्मरण कैसे नहीं होता अंगराज? कैसे नहीं करता मैं प्रतियोगिता वासुदेव?
Okay, this is one part. We'll just discuss this briefly and then go ahead. Yeah, someone who has not spoken much. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, that's one thing. More important. Second thing. Yeah, purpose of getting knowledge. See, what he basically says is a very interesting point. Karna's whole purpose of getting knowledge was what? Competition. Like you see in the Mahabharat, it comes here. See. Where is that? Oh, sorry. Next page. Yeah, Karna reflected on his feelings toward the Pandavas. His hatred for Arjuna owed its origin to the day he had been refused entry in Drona's school. You know, that's the scene that they show, where the boy tells Drona, मैं अवश्य लौटूंगा और इसको पराजित करूंगा. When he came again to Hastinapur to compete in the exhibition, Drona had recognized him as the boy whom he had turned away years later. He had told him that he would only accept royal princes in his school. Burning with shame, he had gone away, vowing vengeance. Defeating Drona's best student Arjuna would be the best way to exact that revenge. So the basic point is that this fellow's whole life was in a competitive mood. His whole life was competition with Arjuna. So what Krishna is saying here, your purpose of obtaining knowledge only was wrong fundamentally. He's saying that Parshuram's curse which was there was just incidental. It was based on that particular surrounding and situation. Parshuram curses him like that. That, when you need it the most, your knowledge will not come. But he's saying beyond that, the point is that because you never had the right objective behind gaining knowledge, which is to serve society or do whatever, and you were only unnecessarily competing with an Arjun who was far away, that knowledge would never be really instilled in your heart. Which is so much right actually. That means the whole point basically is, in today's world also we see, like in India especially we see, in our modern education system, there is such a cutthroat competition. And like we see 10th standard, 12th standard, children are sitting and mugging up and, doing so much. How much of the knowledge stays with them? If you see, nothing stays. Because that knowledge was not obtained from the perspective of wanting knowledge. It was obtained from the perspective of just competing and getting ahead. So that knowledge never becomes a part of one system. It's a very perfectly logical point. That when you have a wrong motivation for something, that means, see, the Vedic system, anything that you do for the sake of that, not for some other sake. That means if you are doing activity A, you have to do activity A if you are interested in activity A. But if you are doing an activity A to get activity B, then that activity A will completely frustrate you. To give another example, this comes actually in the 8th canto. So last week when I was talking on this, on Bali Maharaj's and Vaman Dev section, Vaman Dev, when Bali, he tells him that, I'll give you 3 steps of land. Can these children go inside and play? If you don't mind, they're right under my nose over here. And they're really enthusiastic about their toy. And it's like, sorry. Yeah. So, what happens is that, Vaman Dev basically, he's asking for 3 steps of land. So Bali is saying that, why such a foolish thing you are asking 3 steps of land? I can give you a whole island, I can give you a big kingdom. So Vaman Dev at that time he says that, one should not run, I am a Brahmana and I have certain dharma duties to perform, and if I stick to that duty, I will actually be happy in that. But if I do my duties for the sake of artha or money, then I will never be happy in my duties. Because I am not doing my duties for the sake of that duty, I am doing it for some other sake. Artha. You understood this? So I was just mentioning this point that in the Mahabharata also we see that the Pandavas, what was their motivation to get the kingdom back? Some time ago when I was speaking in one Rotary club, one person had invited me to speak on some Bhagavad Gita class. So that time there was one lady who was arguing a lot at the end of the class. She was saying that, just for the Pandavas to enjoy a kingdom, why did they wage such a big war? But the whole point is that the Pandavas did not wage the war for artha. They waged the war because their dharma was being taken away. That means their rights were being taken away. And the proof of that is they were ready even for 5 villages, which from artha principle did not make any sense. Because 5 villages cannot give you that economic prosperity which a big kingdom can give you. But they were ready for that. Because their thing was that we want to do our duty. So the Vedic system teaches that in doing whatever you are best at, in doing that, whatever artha comes as a concomitant result, you be happy with that. But if you do a duty for the sake of artha, you may get artha, but you will simply be frustrated all your life. Because the duty is not in line with what you are. Because you are doing an activity A for an activity B, not for the activity A itself. So similar thing we are seeing over here, that whatever education is there, we have all have had this experience. Whenever we have studied some subject which we never liked, just because it would give us a job, it was an extremely frustrating experience within. Or whenever we did a job that we never liked. I'm not a teacher, let's say, and I'm doing a job of a teacher, it's frustrating to the core. Because I just don't like it. I'm just doing it for something else. You may have to do it out of necessity in today's Kali Yuga, but that does not absolve you of this problem. The problem basically is that if you're doing something which is not your intrinsic nature, just for some other purpose if you do, you will continue to be frustrated and it will never satisfy you. That's exactly what Krishna is telling Karna here. You went for knowledge not because you were interested in the knowledge to do something good, but simply in a competitive mood. And because you went in that mood, this knowledge had to forsake you at some time. And it forsake you at this time in battle. So that is the basic point. Okay. So of course we can talk many things in this, but I'll just end this particular section with one quote of Maharaj to Shyamanand Prabhu, who Maharaj told that, all the stories in the Bhagavatam are basically there, he said, so that just like in the Bhagavatam, the characters undergo various situations, such situations come in our life also in a smaller degree. And if at that time, if we can recall those instructions and stick to that, then it's our success. If not, that knowledge is like Karnaka knowledge, where you had that knowledge, but at the right time, it went away from your system. So that is considered as useless. And the contrary example of that is Rama. When Vishwamitra takes Rama Lakshman to the forest to kill Tataka and all, he gives them many divine weapons. And at that time, Rama, he's taking only one benediction from Vishwamitra. You know what is that? The benediction is not that, let me be proficient at these weapons. He says that when I need these weapons, let them come to my use. Vishwamitra grants the benediction, saying that, yes, tatastu. When you need it, it will come to you. So that's the success of that whole system. Complete contrast to Karna's situation. Yeah, go ahead. Krishna, yeah. Yeah, when you need it the most, it will be with you. So that's considered, jewel of knowledge. When you need it, it becomes a part of your system. Any quick comment on this? Anybody would like to say something? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, he says the law of karma. That means, that means Parshuram's curse, he says, was incidental. It just happened also. But it had to happen because you were simply competitive. You were not really interested in the knowledge. Yeah. Prakriti. One second. Someone who has not. Yeah, go ahead, Saurav. Yeah, please go ahead. When I say impetus, duty for duty's sake, what I mean is, you can be happy in life only when whatever you do as your occupation to earn your bread or whatever is something that's actually accordance with your nature. Then you can be happy in that profile. See, like that is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Every occupation is covered with fault. But you don't give up your occupation, because in that natural thing you will find some rasa at least. And in that rasa, that will give you that satisfaction. Artha is incidental. So I am giving a practical example. Suppose somebody is not a teacher. I am not a teacher by profession. I am not a teacher by interest, my inclination. But I take a chalk and go to teach just because it's giving me money. I will be frustrated, first thing, because I'll never do good at the job, because it's not my cup of tea. I'll make others also frustrated. And that's how life will go on. I'll be just miserable. I'll never be happy. So it's the best thing. Of course, I know in today's world it's a great challenge. Most people in today's world are doing things they don't like to do. That's why they're not happy also. They're frustrated all the time. That's why they need TV, addiction, so many other things, internet, so many things to keep them, somehow pumped up with enthusiasm to go ahead in life. Because their natural occupation doesn't satisfy them in any way. Okay. One sec. Yeah, where? Here. Okay. That's a very big question. It's a fantastic question. I think we will. Ultimately, the shortcut, the simple answer is that we have to ensure that at least they do things that they are best at. Yeah, go ahead. No, his question is how to save our children from this mess. Competition is one thing. See, competition, how you save is a very simple thing. At least as a parent, I think we need to emphasize to our children that the best person to compete with is themselves. Actually, that's actually ideal. You compete with yourself. If I was doing this much previously, if I was able to do so much maths last year, am I able to do maths in a little better way this year? I have improved. Why should I compare with a neighboring child in that class, thinking that he's getting 100 in maths always? I got 60 last time. This time I got 70. Fantastic. No, the system is comparing, that is correct, and you may also compare, that is also correct, but you are not going to escape from the result of that. You understood the point? The result of that is there. The result of that is 2-3 things. One is frustration, one is dissatisfaction, and the other is that knowledge which you gain will never be yours, which is also correct, because you were never, you just did it for the sake of. So all those things are also correct only. I would say that, but at the same time, in the name of that, I mean, it's like, we cannot change the whole world. That does not mean that you cannot do something at your level locally. You can see what you can do best in that. It's not that because, everybody is competing, we have to, we have to necessarily suffer exactly that way. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but then you have to reap the consequence. The consequence you don't escape only, because there's a law of nature. That's the point, right? Okay. I'll just take one last question and go ahead, because there is much more discussion to come actually. Yeah. No, actually, interest means it is basically, what we call as basically on the varna. So basically, it is actually interest only, because the interest and the propensity is basically coming from your background, which is your nature. Correct, na? That's how it is. It's coming from your background. Yeah, increasingly in modern society, you see all those things because of, variations in Garbhadan and so many other things. You see various funny combinations coming up. Yeah, but then a person will have to do that. If a person is born like that, he will have to, function to some way in that particular way. Otherwise, he will not feel fulfilled at all. Actually, the interest which is coming out of inclination, that is actually your duty in the strict sense. So I don't know why we have to break these two. You understand what I'm saying? That means the interest which is coming from inclination, that is actually the dharma of a candidate. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about occupational duty. Varna. Yeah, I'm talking about Varna. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you're talking in the context of ashram. Whatever has to be done has to be done. Yeah. We are talking here in occupation Varna only. Yeah, we are talking occupational duty. We are talking about occupational duty.
Oh, right.
Yeah. No, that is different. That is ashram duty. We are not coming. That is not discussion only over here actually. That's not the discussion. It overlaps these two things. Yeah. Okay, let's see the second part of this.
अपने जीवन के साथ ये समाज निरंतर ही मेरी संभावनाओं को कुचलता रहा है, मेरी शक्ति को सम्मान नहीं दिया, मेरे सपनों को स्वीकार नहीं किया, सदा ही सूट पुत्र कहकर अपमानित करता रहा है मुझे।
अपने पिता की बात मान लो, क्योंकि उन्हें ज्ञान है कि सूत में सामर्थ्य नहीं होता।
ईश्वर की दी हुई संभावना मनुष्य का अधिकार है वासुदेव, और ये समाज किसी को उसके अधिकार से किस प्रकार वंचित कर सकता है? अवश्य ही ये घोर अपराध है राधे, जाति पाति का भेद करना और इन मिथ्या भेदों के आधार पर किसी मनुष्य को या समाज के किसी भाग को अधिकार से, अवसर से, संपत्ति से या सम्मान से वंचित रखना मानवता के विरुद्ध है। तो तुम मेरा क्या दोष है वासुदेव? यदि मेरे मन में ऐसा दोष जन्मा, यदि मैंने प्रतियोगिता की, यदि मैंने बलपूर्वक अपना अधिकार प्राप्त करने का प्रयत्न किया, तो मेरा क्या दोष है वासुदेव? एक समय था अंगराज, जब पृथ्वीर के पुत्र कार्तवीर अर्जुन नाम के एक क्षत्रिय राजा ने महर्षि जमदग्नि की हत्या कर दी। महर्षि के पुत्र ने क्या किया जानते हैं आप? उन्होंने अपनी पीड़ा में भी विचार किया कि क्यों उनके पिता महर्षि जमदग्नि की हत्या की गई, कहां फैला था अधर्म। उन्होंने अपनी पीड़ा का विस्मरण कर दिया, समग्र समाज की पीड़ा को अपना लिया और अधर्मी क्षत्रियों का नाश कर समग्र आर्यवर्त को शुद्ध करने को जीवन मंत्र बना दिया। वो केवल प्रतिशोध लेकर बैठते तो आज भगवान परशुराम नहीं कहलाते।
Actually, I mean, he's giving a good example here. The basic point is that this fellow felt that there was injustice on him because he had whatever. And of course, it consisted with Krishna's point because Krishna also talks of Chaturvarna Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashah. As in terms of quality and work. But of course, again, birth is by and large an indication of quality and work. So that also there. So that's how society practically implements it. But again, Krishna does not talk about that in the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about quality and work as parameter for caste system. So since he says that I was, always been called like Sudputra, what they showed is the scene in that arena where they come to display their weapons. So that is Bhima who says that, you're Sudputra, get out. And all people are also saying, get lost. Throw him out. So that is the time Duryodhan comes and, kind of makes him the king. So what Krishna is saying here is a good example. He's quoting whom? Parshuram. And what is he saying basically? What did Parshuram do? Yeah, that means the misery that he suffered when his father was killed, he did not see that as just an incident where his family suffered. He saw that as a situation where entire society is suffering because of evil Kshatriyas. And it did something much more than, at a personal revenge level. He decided to rectify the social problem, which was the evil Kshatriyas, by killing them 21 times. Of course, when he overdid it, then he was stopped. But the point is, at least, that's a good example. As in he, did not, he went beyond his personal problem. So that's what Krishna is saying. Anyway, let's see ahead.
आपको जो दुख और अपमान मिले वो वास्तविक थे, किंतु आप उन्हें अवसर बना देते तो समाज का उद्धार होता और आपका कल्याण होता। आप जैसे शक्तिमान मनुष्य का आधार यदि अन्य शोषित और पीड़ित लोगों को मिल जाता तो कितने जीवन सुख से भर जाते। आपके पास संभावना भी थी, सामर्थ्य भी था और उस पीड़ा का अनुभव भी था, किंतु आपने अपना जीवन यूं समर्पित नहीं किया। आपने अपना जीवन समर्पित कर दिया दुर्योधन को, जिसके पक्ष में केवल अधर्म था और कुछ नहीं। अब देखिए अपनी स्थिति, आप दुर्योधन के पक्ष में खड़े रहे, आप पांचाली के वस्त्र हरण जैसे पाप के भागी बने, आप अपनी माता का सम्मान नहीं कर पाए, अपने ही भाइयों के दो पुत्रों की हत्या की आपने, और आज अपना धर्म गवाकर, अपनी विद्या गवाकर, अपना संतोष गवाकर, अपने ही अनुज के हाथों मरने के लिए सज्ज खड़े। आप यथार्थ कह रहे हैं वास्तविक, किंतु मैं तो दुर्योधन के उपकारों का विस्मरण नहीं कर सकता। कौन सा उपकार राधे? क्या आपसे मित्रता करने के पश्चात दुर्योधन ने समग्र हस्तिनापुर के सूतों और पीड़ित मनुष्यों को विद्या का अधिकार दे दिया, क्या उसने सारे पीड़ित और शोषित समुदाय को अपना लिया? नहीं, है। उसने केवल अपने लाभ हेतु आपसे मित्रता की। आपके हृदय में अर्जुन के प्रति जो प्रतिस्पर्धा थी, इसके कारण आपसे मित्रता की। यदि आपने अपने दुखों का त्याग करके समाज के दुखों को अपनाया होता, तो दुर्योधन की मित्रता का सत्य आप जान पाते। यदि दुर्योधन के हृदय में उपकार की भावना होती, तो आप उसके माध्यम से संसार के पीड़ितों को लाभ करवा पाते। वास्तव में उसे सारे अधर्मों और अपराधों से मुक्त करवा पाते। किंतु आपने सत्य जाना है, आप पर किए गए उपकारों का वास्तव में कोई मूल्य ही नहीं था। मैंने जीवन भर पीड़ितों और वंचितों को दान दिया है वासुदेव। अपनी संपत्ति में से अपने पास कुछ भी नहीं रखा। संदान का वास्तविक लाभ दानी को होता, दान प्राप्त करने वाले को नहीं। आपने यदि अपने सामर्थ्य का उपयोग अपने जैसे पीड़ितों को स्वतंत्रता दिलाने के लिए किया होता।
Anyways, it goes on for a long time, but I just comment on 2-3 things over here. The first part of this was what? What was the first part where, what is he talking about? He's talking about Duryodhan. You know, like, before that there was anything? Yeah, of course, that we already discussed, the competition part. But the point is that, you know, Duryodhan did not befriend you, you know, with genuine compassion on you or anything. He just exploited your competitive mentality. He just exploited that, you know, and you just surrendered to him, you know. And you did not really achieve anything by surrendering to this Duryodhan. So basically at this point I was just reflecting that how before the Mahabharat war, Krishna basically meets Karna, you know, and he tells him all this. We know that story, right? He tells him you're Kunti's son and everything. He tells him that, hero, you come with me and you will become the king. The Pandavas will worship you as their elder brother, and I will also do that along with all their followers. And you know, he says so many things actually. In fact, he tells him that if you do that at one point of time, even an arrangement will be made that Draupadi will also get married to you. You know, because the arrangement is that Draupadi marries all the children of Kunti. So she will marry you as well. And then she says that in this way you will become the king of Hastinapur and you will rule. With me also at your command. I mean, what an offer, if you see in a way. I mean, fantastic, phenomenal offer being given. Of course, he rejects it, you know, in the name of loyalty to Duryodhan. So actually last week when this Vamana Dwadashi was there, so since I was reading about Bali, so there I came across a very super contrast example, you know, and how by surrendering to Krishna you benefit so much. Bali, if you see the story, before Vamandev comes to Bali to cheat him, the demigods had a big fight with the demons and Bali was killed. Bali was dead. So was all Bali's friends, demons. Shukracharya had this method called Sanjeevani, by which if your head, hand and legs, even if they are cut from your body, if they are not thrown and burnt, he can connect everything and bring you back to life, bring the soul back. He does it and he gets Bali back to life. And he gets everyone back to life, all the demons. And then Shukracharya does many yagyas and everything for Bali and empowers Bali so much that when Bali goes to Amaravati, Indra's capital, Indra, just by looking at the strength of Bali, Brihaspati tells him that don't fight only. I mean, it was like what we call as a bloodless coup. You know, like there is a coup, you know, where someone is taken over, you know, without a fight. Indra and all the demigods just get out of their post and they just run away. And Bali sits on the throne of Indra. Then when Vamanadev comes, at that time Bali is doing a yagya. Shukracharya is doing a yagya for Bali. That time Vamanadev comes and when he is asking the 3 steps, Shukracharya is telling him that don't give these 3 steps because this fellow is actually Vishnu in disguise. In 2 steps only he'll take everything, and 3rd step ke liye he will arrest you. He tells the full future. Don't give. And he tells a technicality. He says that you have not said Om. There is a technical thing that, if you promise something to someone, if you have not said Om before the promise, then that promise is not valid. Of course, let's not take that very seriously and go back home and tell our wife and husband that, I didn't say Om that day. Yeah. So, Shukracharya tells, you didn't say Om before the promise, so that promise is not very valid. So you can, you can just say something and you can say that, you're not going to give it. There's no problem. There is no sin. If you reject to donate anything when your money is when your life is at stake. Bali at that time, he thinks and he rejects the offer of Shukracharya. He says that I cannot do what you're saying because what you're saying is not in line with Dharma. Dharma says that if somebody has given a word to someone, one cannot lie and go back. Can you just off that projector? It's not required now. It's just coming in my eye. That once more. That's it. So, Dharma dictates that once if I have said something to someone, I cannot go back on my word because word is very important. So, Bali says, I have given a word to this fellow, I will give 3 steps. And if he's Vishnu only, and the goal of the life is to give everything to Vishnu, and if he has Vishnu really, he can take everything from me. What are the use of objecting? So, Bali argues in many ways, saying that I cannot take your advice. And then Shukracharya curses him. You are going to lose everything and he'll arrest you. He predicts the future. But the interesting thing over here is, what Shukracharya did for Bali, no one has done for anyone like that. Bringing your dead body back to life and giving you everything, giving you the entire universe. Other than Brahmaloka, everything was owned by Bali at that time. And courtesy only of Shukracharya. No one else had any other responsibility in that. Just because of Shukracharya only, he owned everything from top to other than Brahmaloka, he had everything. But still, he rejected his guru. Compared to that, if you see over here, Duryodhana did nothing for Karna. He just made him an Angaraj, which he really never used also, because he was sitting in Hastinapur only all the time. He never went to Anga Pradesh. So basically it was a useless gift. It didn't make any sense, because it was always at his beck and command. So, so there was no meaning to that Angaraj position. But the point really is that, so that is actually surrender. And because of that surrender, so the point here is even Karna could have surrendered like that. Krishna gave him the opportunity. Krishna counseled him, saying that you come to me. I will make you the king. And Krishna meant it. But he foolishly rejects it. And then he is punished in this particular way. So another thing about Bali, which is glorified very much, where in fact he is compared to the Pandavas, is in his tolerance of suffering. Okay, so we see this point that when Bali, in 2 steps, Vamanadev covers everything. One step he covers all the planets, and second step he covers heavenly planets also. 3rd step there is nothing, so he orders Garuda to arrest Bali with an Nagapash. And when Bali is arrested, at that time, Prahlad and everyone come and actually, and in fact Bali says that, please keep your 3rd step on my head, so my word will be fulfilled. And Prahlad comes and says many things, saying that, it is actually your mercy to my grandson, you are doing all this. Then he comes, Brahmaji. Brahmaji comes and says that, my dear Lord, you have promised that even if somebody gives you a leaf or water or fruit or flower, you will give yourself to him. Bali has given you universe. Please don't punish him like this. So that time Vamandev actually glorifies Bali, by saying that actually the real greatness of Bali is his tolerance. Because though I insulted him and tested him so severely, he never went back on his word. He never said that you are cheating me, and he just never threw up his hands in frustration. Rather, he stuck to his word and dharma. So something similar with the Pandavas you see always, that at least even during the gambling match, very tough time. But still they were sticking to their word at that time, though they were being cheated by the opposite party. So Vamandev glorifies Bali's greatness in that particular arena. And then finally Vamandev tells Brahmaji that don't worry, I will give Bali a very good position. I will give him Sutala Loka, which by my arrangement currently will become better than Indra Loka. And I myself will be there as a guard for him. And not only that, at the end of this Manvantar and the next Manvantar, he will become Indra. So his current position, he will get it. And currently he will get a position better than the current position. I will always be there with him. So he kind of, he does everything for Bali actually. The point that you see here is that when you take a very tough decision in your life, when there is a severe test, you have your own conception of dharma, that, somebody has done something for me, like this fellow had Duryodhan and Bali had Shukracharya, but if you're ready to give that so-called thing up in the service of the Lord, if needed by the situation, then the way the Lord can benedict you, no one can imagine that. Krishna also promised Karna all these things. Kingdom of Hastinapur, with everything, with he himself as at his beck and call. But he refuses that offer. But Bali on the other hand, even without knowing that I will get all this, he surrenders and he gets everything in return. And interestingly, what happens is, when Vamandev becomes happy with Bali, everybody becomes happy with Bali. Because what happens is, after this pastime is over, Vamandev tells Bali, now you go to Sutala Loka. And then Vamandev is asking Shukracharya, my dear Shukracharya, tell me, what was the fault of your disciple? Why did he lose everything? Bali says, there was no fault at all. You are the proprietor of everything and he has satisfied you. How can there be any fault? Then Vamandev Shukracharya quotes that very famous verse, Mantaratas Tantratas Chidram, Deshakala Vartavit, Sarvam Karoti Nischidram, Tava Anusankirtanam Tava. So he says that, in all these chantings of mantras and this and that, there can be many discrepancies and mistakes. But when somebody takes shelter of your holy name, there can never be any mistake. And my disciple took shelter of you completely. How could he have been at fault? So then Vamandev tells Shukracharya, though Bali has gone away from here, he had started a sacrifice. You please complete that sacrifice. So Shukracharya completes that sacrifice which Bali had started that morning, though he himself had already been sent away to Sutala Loka in his name. And the sacrifice is also completed. So the whole thing that we see is that if a person surrenders to Krishna, then forgetting his own conceptions of dharma, he is unlimitedly benefited. But when a person foolishly sticks to his things like Karna, then there is disrepute in this world and disrepute in the next world, which basically happens to Karna and all of them. So, these are some things. Any question or comment here? That is the final thing we will take. Okay. Oh, in this Mahabharat. No, we are not owning that. That is a very long thing. Basically, he tells Bhishma that you surrendered your free will to the king of Hastinapur, and you surrendered your free will in such a way that you never took any decision yourself. You were simply watching many things going on which were wrong, and in the name of your surrender to the king, you never took any decision knowing fully well what is the right decision to be taken. You knew that that fellow is not taking right decisions, and you have the capacity to know the right decision. But instead of taking the right decision, you were just in the name of your, religion, which was to stand by the king of Hastinapur, you simply kept mum. And that is wrong, basically, which we know, basically. So that's what he basically says in the context of Bhishma, right? Makes sense. Okay, any other question or comment? Yeah, okay, go ahead. Motivation. He was purified by pure devotional service by Narada. You understood? Narada gave him a process which purified his anartha. He told him to chant the holy name of the Lord in Madhuvan, in Vrindavan. And he told him a process of pure bhakti. He basically tricked him. He told him that you do this, your desires will be fulfilled. His desires were fulfilled, but he was completely purified. Because his fortune was he met a pure devotee. Akama sarva kamava moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena ejata purusha param. Even if you are full of wrong desires, If you come to Krishna through that proper channel, you are benefited. Karna didn't have that fortune. We suffer for that, but we suffer. Suffering will be a little reduced. Everything can be switched on. Yeah, perfect. Any other comment? Yeah, go ahead. Here. Yeah. Mic should be on and you have to speak into the mic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just to summarize some things more, which we just did. The first part was compassion, if you remember. The first part was compassion. From the perspective of Krishna talking about compassion being the root of dharma and vows being secondary. Vows should be connected to compassion. We saw many things in that regard, like Prabhupada's flexibility in terms of situation, or we saw that Bhaktivedanta story, Ramayana coming out of compassion. We saw how India lost its old culture to the Mughals because of, sticking to some principle without understanding. Yeah, rigidity. That was one thing. Second thing we saw that how second thing we saw basically from Bhishma's thing is how if you see something wrong and you keep your mouth shut, you have a karma on yourself. That means seeing things wrongly done, even in your small local unit of family. You're seeing something is going wrong and you keep your mouth shut, knowing fully well that wrong is going, but you can say something, but still you will not say. Keeping your mouth shut, you're going to pay a price for that. That's what we see in terms of, Bhishma and everyone paying a price. Yeah, authorized, as in I'll tell you one thing. In that context, if something grossly wrong is going on, every human being has a right to, voice his concerns against it. No one is a slave of anyone to, just keep their mouth shut and suffer foolishly. Everybody has that much right to voice out that what is going around is wrong. Correct? So that is a basic human right. Even a child has the right to say that. That, I don't like the way I am being taught, by my teacher. A child has a right to say that. And we have to listen to that child. Yeah, with all respect, we have to listen to that. That was the second thing. The third thing we saw is foolish attachment to family members, which was in this case shown by Drona to Ashwathama. So the first thing was compassion. Compassion. Compassion being the root of all vows of religion. Second thing is, when you see things wrong, keeping mouth shut is wrong. That is the Bhishma's thing. Third thing is, your own son or family members, you cannot be foolishly attached to them. You have to understand what actual affection is, and if they are wrong, call a spade a spade. They are wrong only. You cannot simply nod your head. We saw several examples of people who banished their own son, when they were wrong. Then finally, then the fourth thing we saw was knowledge. When you try to obtain something with a wrong, that means you want A, but you actually are not interested in A, you are interested in B. There is a problem. You will be frustrated, you will lose A also, which we see in Karna's case. He wanted knowledge, not for knowledge, not for serving humanity. He wanted knowledge to compete with that Arjun. So this is a totally wrong platform to work. And he forgot the knowledge, which had to happen, which Krishna here calls as a law of karma, not Parshuram's curse. That was just incidental. That was the fourth thing that we saw. And the fifth thing that we saw was the foolish surrender of Karna to Duryodhan, though he didn't do anything great in his life. He just exploited him. But this fellow unnecessarily gave himself completely. And we saw a contrast example of Bali, whose guru did so much for him, but still he surrendered to Krishna and he got unlimited benefit. Whereas this fellow lost this world's kirti and Paralok kirti also he lost. He lost everything basically. These are 5 things that we saw today. Okay, any other quick comment or question? Yeah. Just last maybe, yeah. They sound similar. Karna, Vikarna, brother. Kumbhakarna. Yeah. See, I'll tell you what I mean, from a practical level, what I feel is, I'll tell you a simple tendency among devotees also in general. Or a general in office also. Like, for example, I'm a head of department in office. Many times I see that somebody is doing something wrong, let us say. Somebody else comes and complains to me who is doing wrong. But he says, don't take my name. Mera naam mat lo. Even devotees also. They say, I saw that, but don't take my name. That means you are seeing something wrong. But for you, your own name and your thing is so important that you are not ready to come out and address it. You understood the point? This is general tendency in people because nobody wants to get into any problem. This is general tendency. Material life or spiritual life. Nobody wants to get into any bad relation or rough shoulders. Rub shoulders with somebody. नहीं करना है हमको. वो गलत करे आके बोलेंगे. But devotee के साथ मतलब in association of devotee we see so many such examples. People come and say, Prabhuji, he is doing like this, but don't tell my name to him. But how to do this? I'll tell you one classic example of this. There was one situation, exact details. It was something like this. The husband wife, they were getting initiated, but the husband had a bad habit of using very vulgar words to the wife. Extremely vulgar words. The wife told this to us, but said that you cannot take my name. I mean, the husband would give bad words, means like on mother and on sister, that kind of words. The wife said that you cannot take my name. Because if you take my name, of course, in that case it was a little more complicated because obviously, the wife would suffer too much. But just one example. So then in that case, I told this to Govind Prabhu also. That like this, this particular wife is saying about the husband. And Maharaj is going to initiate this boy tomorrow. What to do? He said, we can't do anything. We just have to give him initiation. What do we do? Because if we don't give him initiation, he will ask us why you are not giving initiation. कोई भी पूछेगा ना अभी इनिशिएशन आपका नाम चलो निकाल दिया क्यों निकाला कोई तो पूछेगा क्या बताया उसको ये तो बता नहीं सकते कि आपके वाइफ ने बोला है कि आप माँ बहन पे गाली देते हो ये बता नहीं सकते बताने का क्या फिर दीक्षा ही दे दो उसको क्लोज अवर आइज एंड गिव दीक्षा दैट वाज द पॉलिसी दैट वी डिसाइडेड ऑफ कोर्स हियर आई वुडंट blame that lady even because Govind Prabhu said that because somehow she is on a dependent role. She's a wife. सुनना पड़ेगा husband का. That fellow may even, whack her up. Go home and, really, thrash her out. So she has to keep mum. But sometimes in devotees, such dependency is not there. But still we see that when a person sees somebody else doing wrong, they are more interested in ensuring that their name doesn't get spoiled in that environment. So that's the general attitude of people in general, I'm saying. So that stems out of this. So that means the courage to come out when there is a problem, not simply to raise a controversy, but to really want to address it should be there at some level. You should be able to do that.